Hello everyone, Benji-Sales here, and E3 2019 has come to a close, which means it's time to give out some awards for what I think were the best things that we saw this year. Now, I'm going to be giving out some genre awards, some platform-specific awards, and a few other fun things sprinkled in there as well. One thing I do want to note is that I am not going to be doing a Sony exclusives category just because, they were not attending E3 this year, so a lot of their best stuff that's coming, wasn't part of this show at all, so it just didn't feel right. Even though we did still see a few PlayStation exclusives at this show this year, like I said, it just didn't feel correct to do a best of without them. So yeah, I'm going to be doing 3 nominees per category, and we got a bunch of ones to dive into, so let's kick it off. Presenting the nominees for Best Conference or Presentation: Square Enix, Nintendo's E3 Direct, the Xbox E3 2019 press briefing, and the winner is Nintendo's E3 Direct. I thought out of all of the shows this year that this was really just the best paced. First of all, the pacing was fantastic. Nintendo really has mastered these direct style presentations. It was filled to the brim with great looking games, both from first party titles as well as third parties. Tons of exclusives, some big surprises, like No More Heroes, as well as, the Breath of the Wild sequel. So, it was an all around great show, especially in a year where, to be frank, a lot of the conferences were kind of weak. This one just had the best of everything. It was the way, I want an E3 show to be. And I think they were the clear best conference. Even if you're not a huge Nintendo fan, just looking at it as a show, looking at it as a presentation as a whole, Nintendo is my winner for the best conference or presentation of E3 2019. Presenting the nominees for Biggest Surprise: Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077, Nintendo announcing the Breath of the Wild sequel, Banjo and Kazooie appearing in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and the winner is Keanu Reeves appearing in Cyberpunk 2077. Now, don't get me wrong, those other surprises were really cool, really awesome as well, but this is one that truly came out of nowhere. I mean, I don't see how anyone could have been expecting this at all. It's, with Banjo, it was one of those things where it's like, who knows, any character could show up, and a lot of fans were asking for that. And for Breath of the Wild sequel, we all knew, that a new Zelda was going to be coming sometime soon. But this, it was out of nowhere. And if you look at some of the numbers that it's putting up, on social networks, I think that's pretty clear that this was the most shocking thing at E3. It garnered a ton of attention on Twitter, blew up on YouTube videos. This is the year of Keanu. So I think it's a really cool surprise as well. CD Projekt Red has said this is not a cameo, that he actually has the second most lines in the entire script, which, if this is anything like The Witcher, the script's probably pretty huge. So that means he's a integral part of this game, and he even lended motion capture to this as well. So it's not even one of those things where it's just a really brief cameo. Keanu Reeves is a central major part of Cyberpunk 2077. So to me, this was definitely the best surprise. It was the craziest out of nowhere thing this year, and it was a lot of fun. These are the kind of moments that really make E3 special. Presenting the nominees for Best Cinematic Trailer: Cyberpunk 2077 from CD Projekt Red, Deathloop from Arcane Studios and Bethesda, Halo Infinite from 343 Industries and Microsoft Game Studios. And the winner is... Alright, we're on a little bit of a run here, but Cyberpunk 2077 is also going to be my winner for Best Cinematic Trailer. Now, I want to be clear here, this award is not about a gameplay showing. This is about, a cinematic trailer, and I just thought the Cyberpunk one was incredible. The visuals alone are, absurd, but not even just the visuals. I thought the acting was awesome. I thought some of the cuts were incredible. incredible. Like whenever he looks down at his hand, when he's in the taxi and it's bloody and it cuts to him rinsing it off in the sink. I just thought that was expertly done. And yeah, as a whole, it was just outstanding. There was a lot of cinematic trailers this year at E3. That's been kind of the knock on it. This seemed to be the year where everyone was just showing cinematics and not actual gameplay. But out of the bunch, this is the one that just really stood out to me, really blew me away. And I hope we get more of cinematics of this kind of quality in the actual game. I hope this isn't just a just for E3 trailer. I hope we actually get some of this stuff in the actual game whenever it launches. Presenting the nominees for Best Action Game: Astral Chain from Platinum Games, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order from Respawn and EA, Watch Dogs Legion from Ubisoft. And the winner is Watch Dogs Legion. Was my best action game of E3. And I'll be honest, this shocks me that I'm giving this game this award. So when it first leaked out that the concept behind this game was the whole no set protagonist, you could play as anyone, I did not like the idea. I wasn't vibing with it at all. I thought, how can they make a good story with this? How is this even gonna work? How is such a thing possible? And then, the cover art leaks after that. And I'll be honest, when I saw the cover of the game, I also was like, what is with the masks everywhere and the weirdness? It almost feels like this is like some kind of Fortnite thing. But wow, the gameplay, when they actually showed this game, I was shocked how into it I was. I think it looks incredible, actually. The multi-protagonist of playing as almost anyone actually comes across as amazingly ambitious. I really liked how radically different everyone they showed that, in that trailer were. You had an elderly, almost grandma type character. You had this badass chick just blowing people away. You had just a huge variety of different characters. And yeah, it works, and the masks thing doesn't come across as like Fortnite-y or like that type of like super stylized thing. It actually kind of makes sense whenever you're saying you're playing as all these different people trying to hide their identities. So don't get me wrong, Astral Chain looked incredible. I loved what I saw out of Star Wars as well. I think both of those just look incredible. But yeah, Watch Dogs Legion, man, this really worked for me, and I think it was the best action game that we saw this year. Presenting the nominees for Best RPG: Final Fantasy VII Remake from Square Enix, The Outer Worlds from Obsidian and Take-Two Games, Tales of Arise from Bandai Namco. And the winner is Final Fantasy VII Remake is my best RPG of E3 2019. And, in a lot of ways, this E3 was packed with RPGs. We saw Western-style RPGs. We saw Japanese-style RPGs. There was so much goodness here. But, the thing that really stood out about Final Fantasy VII Remake to me is they made the combat convincing, right? Up until this point, every time I had seen, them show combat, I was just really not sure how I felt about it at all. Now, I understood that this was never going to be just a straight recreation of that turn-based system. Those kind of games just aren't as big anymore as, the more action-heavy type of stuff. Final Fantasy 15 was that more action-heavy combat, and it sold incredibly well. So that doesn't mean a turn-based RPG can't sell. By no means am I saying that, but that action style just appeals to a broader audience. So, but me personally, I was really on the fence with it all. I was like, man, is this just mash button to kill and that's it? Where's all the strategy? I thought what they showed actually looked excellent. The way you can build up, your meter and pause the game, and select what you want to do. How it felt like a great hybrid of, that action style as well as that slower turn-based. It felt like the best best of both, right? A marriage of both that works for fans of it all. And yeah, I was surprised how good the combat looked. The boss battle that they showed, it looked like it was quite a long battle, which is really cool. Yeah, and obviously we saw Tifa for the first time. I thought they nailed her character model, like nailed it. I was a little bit worried she'd look like her Advent Children design. I know a lot of people really like that, but I'm just not really that big of that fan of that look. I just don't really like it. I like that they kept her more classic look. All of the characters look amazing. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be the best RPG. Presenting the nominees for Best Shooter: Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint from Ubisoft, Wolfenstein Youngblood from Machine Games and Bethesda, Doom Eternal from id Software and Bethesda. And the winner is Doom Eternal is going to be my best shooter of E3. It looks like more of that hyper-aggressive, hyper-violent shooting that we loved from the previous Doom title. Tons of new weapons, enemies, locations. It really looks like the single-player component of this game is just going to be gigantic. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about the multiplayer stuff they're talking about yet. I think it looks cool, but I don't know if I'm completely sold on it. But I can't wait to get my hands on and try that. But, as a whole, Doom Eternal just looks phenomenal. The previous game was one of my game of the years whenever it came out. I thought it was the best shooter that year. And yeah, I'll be shocked if this isn't the best shooter, not just of E3, but of all of, 2019. So, looks incredible. We're going to rip and tear until it is done. Where there's going to be another amazing soundtrack from, Mick Gordon. So yeah, this is definitely the best shooter of E3. Presenting the nominees for Indie or Small Team Game: Blair Witch by Bloober Team, 12 Minutes by Annapurna Interactive, Spiritfarer from Thunder Lotus. And the winner is 12 Minutes is going to be my winner here. Now, I'll be honest, this was actually one of the tougher categories this year. I thought there was a lot of awesome, amazing looking indie and small team titles, but this one really stood out to me. Those of you that are familiar with me know of my love of Alan Wake. I love thriller games, I love horror games, and this looks like quite the psychological thriller. The style of that top down, in the small apartment, I think it's really cool looking, and man, they intrigued me with some of this dialogue and some of the visuals that you see going on during it. I am on board. This game was actually one of my highlights out of all of the conferences. This is the type of game that speaks to me. I love these kind of mind-bending type games. So yeah, this is an absolute day one for me. I was blown away with what they showed, and yeah, I cannot wait to see more of this title. 12 Minutes looks outstanding. Presenting the nominees for Best Nintendo Exclusive Title: The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, Animal Crossing: New Horizons, Astral Chain. And the winner is The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening is going to be my best Nintendo exclusive title for E3. The art style of this is just so charming. I'm in love with it. It's so cute. I love the visual style. And, this is extra exciting for me because I never played the original Link's Awakening. I know a lot of people are going to see that as a crime against humanity that I have never played this game, but I have not. So this just looking so charming, so good, way better almost than it has any right to, right? Like, I'm shocked at how good this game looks. I'm day one on board. Animal Crossing looks fantastic as well, and so does Astral Chain. I'm in love with both of those from what they looked, but as I've commented on previously, I don't have a huge history with Animal Crossing. This is going to be my first real dive into the franchise, like to actually put some serious time into it, so I don't have that personal excitement like I do for a Zelda game, but yeah, I can't wait. Link's Awakening looks amazing. Presenting the nominees for Best Xbox Title: Gears 5, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Halo Infinite, And the winner is Halo Infinite is going to be my best Xbox game for E3 2019. And I'll be honest with you, I am shocked that I'm not sitting here giving Gears 5 this award. I thought leading into this E3 that Gears 5 was a lock. It was a shoo-in for, without question, what would be the most impressive Xbox game at the show. Yet somehow, even though Gears 5 launches in 3 months, we saw less of Gears 5 than we saw of Halo Infinite, which comes out holiday 2020. How we got here, how Microsoft just kind of brushed Gears 5 under the rug at the show, I will never understand. I expected to see a lot of campaign footage, some of the multiplayer, but that's all coming, over the summer, over the course of the summer. It's a very weird decision in my opinion, but I still have high hopes for Gears 5. I'm not knocking it. It's going to be incredible. But, Halo Infinite does look outstanding. Apparently what we're seeing running here is the Scarlet version. It's more than likely running on a PC right now with, the estimated specs, but, this is supposed to give us an idea of what, Halo Infinite's going to look like on next gen. 343 is describing this as a reboot for the franchise, not in terms of story. This still takes place after Halo 5, but in terms of, like the atmosphere and the gameplay, it definitely still feels like they're trying to return Halo to its more roots of, what people loved about the franchise from the beginning while doing new things as well. So yeah, I think it does look really, really good. We didn't see any gameplay or anything of it, but it does feel nice to see Halo coming back and coming into its own. So Halo Infinite, best Xbox game at E3. Presenting the nominees for Game of the Show of E3 2019. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order from Respawn and EA. Watch Dogs Legion from Ubisoft. Final Fantasy VII Remake from Square Enix. Cyberpunk 2077 from CD Projekt Red. And The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake by Nintendo. And the winner of Game of the Show is Final Fantasy VII Remake wins the big one. It is my game of the show for E3 2019. And frankly, for me, it was not that close. There was a lot of amazing games here. All of my nominees, I went with 5 nominees for Game of the Show because there were, I think, a lot of outstanding looking titles. But man, Final Fantasy VII Remake looks amazing. This looks exactly like everything I could want out of a remake of this beloved title. Now, 7 is not my personal favorite Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 10 is my favorite, but 7 is definitely up there. It's probably my number 2. So, I do have a ton of attachments to this. This was the first Final Fantasy that I ever played, was 7. I remember my cousin bringing it over to my house. He owned it before me and playing it and just being blown away. I had never played an RPG quite like that before. So, I have some very fond and nostalgic memories for this franchise. And, their State of Play trailer, the last one that we saw for this game, I was kind of underwhelmed with it. It was really brief. It was just a teaser, but I don't know, just the way it was presented there, I didn't love what I was looking at, but man, seeing more of it, Square Enix spent a pretty good length of time on this, showing, cinematics as well as gameplay. It just looked outstanding, and yeah, here we see Tifa, who was just knocked it out of the park, as they have done with every character model. I wrote something about that on Twitter. It's shocking how well they've been able to translate those classic designs and bring them into modern day cutting edge graphics. So, I thought the showing of this was so good at E3 that I literally, the second that conference ended, went online, went to Best Buy and pre-ordered, the $80 Steelbook edition. I didn't go crazy and get that $300 version. I would love to, but that's a little too much for one game for me. But either way, yeah, definitely my game of the show. Blew me away. Thank you, Square Enix, for looking like you're going to deliver on, the promise of this title. And, I'm personally okay with it being split into multiple games. Some people I've seen online have been kind of against the idea, but I'm actually totally for it. Blow this out, make it a little bit longer in each area of the game, flesh out that storyline. The 7 world has a lot of lore, through other spin-off titles and movies that they've done. So there's a lot to work with there. I'm totally cool splitting it up. And yeah, Final Fantasy VII, best of show E3 2019. All right, everyone, that is going to do it for my E3 2019 awards. Thank you so much for watching. As I mentioned at the beginning, E3 2019 was a bit of a down year by E3 standards, but I have high hopes that, next year as we lead into next gen, that E3 2020 should be awesome. I really hope Sony is going to come back next year. I hope this is not a permanent thing. I know that some companies, see E3 as kind of a little bit too expensive for what they get out of it. They'd rather have their own private showing, and I totally get that. I actually think that's probably right. You probably get more bang for your buck hosting your own events versus going to E3, but man, I just think E3 is special. I think it's good for our industry and good for the community to have an event like this where everyone gathers together, where we really celebrate games in a big way and make some really big announcements and get everyone excited. I think it's good for the entire industry, so I don't want to see it go away. Come back, Sony, and let's have E3 2020 for next gen be mind-blowing. Anyways, everyone, if you liked the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Helps the channel out a bunch. And go down into the comments. Let me know your awards. What games that you saw at this E3 totally blew your mind, blew you away. And I will see you, everyone, in the next video.